And then this is called the double lock. Okay. Now, so we were in the early days, we were locked up for 23 hours a day. And this mat was rolled up and put here, and we had to stand all day. And only towards the evening were we allowed to sit down. And as I say, we got exercise in the afternoon, 1 half an hour in the morning, 1 half an hour in the night. And the rest of the day we were on our own in the cells, you see.
So you were looking for any opportunity to get out?
To keep us isolated and under these conditions was part of the softening up process, you know. And initially we started, the warders were quite brutal to us.
And in fact, I understand you wouldn't have even had the mat, but for the fact that the medical doctor said you had to have it?
I'm not sure about the felt mat, but the medical doctor for the beds, some prisoners got beds, which Mr. Mandela and a few others, they got beds and on doctor's orders.
Ah.
I never got a bed. And so I slept on the floor 15 years.
Hey Eddie, what do you call this bucket?
Bucket. We call it a bucket. We used to call it a bali.
A bali.
Bali.
All right. And this bucket originally was a smaller bucket that you had.
It's much smaller. And yes, all of us had a smaller bucket. This is just a replacement, you know, but we never ever used a bucket this size. It's all small ones.
What was it for?
And this was for what?
Overnight. We were locked up all day and all night. So we had to use the bucket. And then early next morning, we were allowed to go out. And initially, we were not allowed to go out as a group. As a total group, we were broken up into 3 groups. The Mandela group, then the Alexander group, and then the Riff Raff, which included me in the group. And so the time we got to the toilet to empty our buckets, the warders on the play rugby and they would force us out. But that's all right. And then, of course, the plate and the spoon. This is a plate we used, and the mug, you know, for soup, when they bring us soup in the night and so on, that's what they used.
What would be the typical food that they would give you?
Well, initially the Africans would get mealie rice, would get millies, and the non-Africans would get mealie rice.
Is that what you call pap?
Well, no, I'm sorry. In the morning, the Africans would get pap, and we would also get pap. It's porridge. It's a kind of a porridge, yes.
Okay.
And the Africans would get a half a teaspoon of sugar, and non-Africans would get a teaspoon of sugar. That's rations. And mealie rice, of course, if it's cold, it becomes so greasy and just slides around. And in the evening, the Africans would get pap again, and we would get a kind of what you call a katkop, a small piece, part of a loaf of bread, about a quarter perhaps of a loaf of bread, with fat on it or jam or something. And then we did perhaps get some soup or things like that, you know. Yeah.
Now, did you have a bench when you first came?
Not initially.
So you were standing all the time?
Well, when we were locked up in the early days, yes. And we were standing all the time, not allowed to lie down during the day, you see. And so that was that. But with the studies, this coming of studies, they gave us a bench and a small table. One of our fellow prisoners used to make tables for us, you know. I refused to make a table because I had lost respect for this chap for one reason or other, and I wanted no favors from him, so I refused the table. So I had no table.